Welcome to this video. When we took a look at Angular, we have already created like this time place read model as an interface in TypeScript. Now we need to do nearly the same thing on the ASP backend side. So you are familiar with C#, but there is a pretty new feature or pretty new, type which is called record. So instead of creating a class which is called time place read model, we will now create a record. And the difference is that records are immutable data structures. So once we have created an instance of that record, you cannot change any fields. In a class, you could simply go ahead and change a field as long as the field is not, or the property is not read-only. But here in records, you cannot change a property after initialization. So here we got the code where we instantiate a new time place read model, and we assign some values to place and time property. Now, once we try to change, to go ahead and say, for example, original.place equals to Berlin instead of Los Angeles, right? Notice original is the name of that model or of that instance. We cannot do that. So the record is denying changing those fields. What we can do, and this brings in, a new keyword, only for those records, is we can copy the original record and then say original with and then change the place. So this will create a copy of the instance but with other values. Now our main goal is to always teach you some nice practice, some nice new things. So this is why we come here and use records, because they are new, because they are optimized for what we want to do here. And you can also go ahead with classes if you want to use them instead, but we always try to teach you the latest and greatest features of C# and any other framework to make your life as a programmer easier and to always provide you the best and most professional knowledge out there. So in general, we use records whenever the value doesn't need to be changed later on. So imagine it like this. We have that flight in our database which has some additional information, right? Like destination, time, arrival, etc. So once we have that read from the database, there is no need to change the data. There might be a way to change the information in the database, like, oh, the flight got cancelled, right? But once we have read the information from the database and we have that little piece of data in our application memory, we don't need to change it. If something in the flight changes, we can simply click again on update or press F5 on the keyboard and we will fetch the latest data again from the database. So we will get through all of this for sure in detail during that challenge. Now you can go to this link, you can see right here. If you're interested in more about records, simply go to Google and search for records, which will redirect you to exactly that page right here. Now let's go ahead to our project. We will now switch over and create those records in C#. So here we are inside of our project, and now we will first of all create a new folder which we will call read models. You can go ahead and also call that models, but we will stick with the syntax of read models. So right click in the project, here flights, right click and then simply add a new folder, call it read models. Now inside of that folder, create two new C# classes. Right click on it, add C# class, and the first one is time place rm, time place read model. And the second one, we will also create it right now, is flight read model. There we go, flight rm. Now I will close that C# project here. Okay, now let's go into the time place read model and adjust it. So first of all, we need to change class here to record. And in addition to that, I will zoom in a little bit. We can completely get rid of that curly braces here, right? So simply open up brackets and inside here, write down string for place as a property. This is why we use it in capital letter, string place, and also date time, which is a C# data structure, time. So this is very short and handy, right? We don't have to define any other fields because those two here, those are fields now. They are properties. So for a record, this is all we have to do to create properties, right? Place and time are fields we can use now. We don't have to create like public, string, place, get, set, etc. This is all we have to do. So this is the first one, record, time, place, two fields. Let's move to the flight read model. Do the same stuff right here. First of all, change it from class to record, and then go ahead, remove the curly braces, add default brackets. Now I will write it here, but make a line break so that it's easier to read. And then we need to think about the information that we have here, right? So each flight should have a unique identifier, so an ID. We have the airline name, we have the price, we have the time place read model for departure, we have a time place read model for arrival, and we have an integer for remaining number of seats. So let's go ahead and implement it like this. So the ID, which should be unique, is a GUID, which is a globally unique identifier. GUID, right? Call it ID. Next one, string airline, string price, time place read model for departure, time place read model for arrival, and integer for remaining number of seats. There we go. Now you can see that we have all the information like we have them in Angular 2, right? Let's save it. Great. Let's switch back to the flight controller. And here inside the search method that we have, we need to replace the string here with some fake data. So let's first of all change the IE numeral of type string to of type flight read model. We will have to implement the namespace for that. So write down flight rm, for example, and hit Control dot when you're on Windows. You can load and hit Control dot when you're on Windows, and you can see some suggestions using flights read model so that we can exit it from the controller right here. Now, instead of returning a string array, we will return a flight read model array. And the content of this is now for sure way more different because we don't have that simple string values anymore. We have a more complex data type. So what I want you to do now is go to GitHub, go to day 5 commit, go into the flight controller and copy the part which is right inside of that curly braces here. So everything what's inside here, I will show it to you just in a second. So I just went over, copied it, and I will now paste it. And as you can see, we now have that code parts in here, which are just some flight read models with all of the data, Los Angeles, Istanbul, Munich, London, and all of this, right? And he's complaining about random. And to fix that random error here, we simply go ahead and above that search method, we create a new random equals to new random, right? So random is coming from the system namespace. So the random is a way for us to create a random price, for example, between 90 and 5,000 US dollar. Adjust the formatting here and we are good to go. That's fine enough. So now we have created some fake data here inside of our flight controller, which we can now send into the Angular application. First of all, let's start the application and see that data in JSON format. Let me just take that /flight, and in the background you can see all of the information. And now it's pretty unstructured, right? Because it's simplified, everything got removed, and it's minified, not simplified, sorry, it's minified, everything got removed, which is not necessary, including all white spaces to keep it really as short as possible so that it's optimized for web transferring. But you can see American Airlines here, you can see the price, departure, which is Los Angeles, etc. So here are all the informations about all the flights that we have received from our search endpoint. So now that we have the information, we can install something which is called API documentation or automatic API documentation. And there is a tool for it which we will use, which is called Swagger. Let's simply proceed and install Swagger in the next video so that you have an automatically generated documentation which you can also use for testing for your backend solution.